All right, hi, this is Howard with Travel Bums, and we are here at the Morro Bay Skate Lab Skateboard Museum, and I'm going to be talking to the owner, Jack Smith. Jack, how you doing today?
All right, Howard, how are you?
Very good, thank you. Nice to meet you. Tell us, first of all, we're in Morro Bay, California, and Morro Bay is probably the best, in my opinion, one of the best cities, if not the best city on the Central Coast. I'm very partial to Morro Bay. And I was walking down the street. I brought my own skateboard, by the way, which I'll show everybody here. This is my own longboard right there. And we've got a quite amazing array of some of the ancient, call them ancient, right? Only as old as me, so I guess I'm ancient if that's the case. Some of the I should be carrying this with me, some of the awesome boards that you have around the place. Can you give us a little brief tour, if you wouldn't mind?
Well, on this wall we have we start with the late 50s and then kind of morph into the early 60s, and then starting with a homemade board, and then you get into some of the early production boards in the 60s. And as you notice, most of the boards are really small because in the 1960s people considered skateboards just to be a kid's toy.
Right.
And then as you move along, you get into the early 1970s. When,
this is my era here.
When urethane wheels were invented. Probably the most popular brand at the time was Cadillac. It kind of changed everything.
Now, I had one of these. This was my first skateboard, the Black Knight, when I was a little kid, 10 years old, 1974. I'm aging myself. And it has the clay wheels on there, right?
Yep.
And then we moved up to the urethane, as you said, and got the GNS, got the Bain, and the Cadillac trucks, and they got the Bennett trucks, right?
Yep,
Bennett
trucks. We got Bennett's here.
There you go, the Bennetts. Boy, this is like a trip through my past to watch this. I used to read Skateboarder magazine like every day practically of my life.
The Bible of the sport back then.
Yeah. Now you're pretty famous as far as skateboarding goes because of some of the things you've done some cross country treks on the boards, and tell us a little about that.
Well, in 1976, myself and two buddies, skateboarded across America. Really, the reason we did it was the only job you can get in Morro Bay in the summertime as a teenager is to work in a restaurant. And none of us wanted to do that. So to this day, I can't remember who came up with the idea. We sent one letter to one potential sponsor. They agreed to do it. And about 30 days later, we took off, drove up to Oregon in our support vehicle, which was a 1969 Firebird. And we proceeded to skateboard across America, starting in Lebanon, Oregon, and finishing in Williamsburg, Virginia, 32 days later. That's
amazing. Now, tell me something. I'm curious, because, you didn't skate up the hills, did you? How'd you do it, like, over the mountains and the Rocky Mountains and all those things?
Actually, we pushed up the Rocky Mountains, as well as the Appalachians. You just keep pushing.
You just skate. You're skating all the way, right?
You're going very slow, but you just keep pushing. And I always tell people that the Appalachians are much harder to cross than the Rockies, because the Rockies you go up and you come down and you're done. The Appalachians, I think we went through 6 or 7 different passes before we were done. So
holy cow!
The Appalachians are definitely tougher, but it's and I don't want to say it's not that hard, but you've got direct drive, low gear, and you just keep pedaling.
That's amazing. That's quite amazing. Seriously, because I have a hard time going up hills myself, and especially even downhills is even tougher because, skateboards, people who don't ride skateboards don't realize they don't have brakes on them.
Yeah, your brakes are your feet.
Yeah.
And you just stay at it.
So show us the boards that you rode on with. I'd be curious.
You learn to push with both feet. And that makes a big difference.
Oh, okay. I never did that before. So
this is a board that I used in 1976. It was made of Lexan. It was actually Lexan's made by General Electric, and they were one of our sponsors. They helped us out a little bit. And then in 1984, we went to a longer board, bigger wheels, precision bearings, wider trucks. This board's seen a lot of use.
Now, when you say precision bearings, this had ball bearings in it?
Well, the board we rode actually, the wheels I actually rode on the cross-country trip did have precision bearings. These are just some old loose ball bearings I have in here because the old wheels have been lost to time. So.
Yeah, that was a pain. I remember taking those things apart and then losing them all the ball bearings. You had to keep them in a cup, right?
Exactly. And then in 2003, when we did it to raise funds for Low syndrome, which is a syndrome that my oldest son was born with and passed away from in 2003, We were lucky enough to be sponsored by a company called Rolls, based in Germany.
That's
It's
a crazy board.
carbon fiber board, and the big advantage to this is that you can use very large wheels, but yet you have a very low riding platform.
I see.
Because it's not your pushing leg that gets tired. It's a leg on the board that is always supporting your weight and going up and down.
I will vouch for that. I mean, I only learned how to push with my right and stand on my left leg. I can't do it any other way myself. And boy, it does get very tiring on the leg that's on the board after a while, you know.
So I always joke with people that we went from a Volkswagen to a Ferrari, or I guess I should say Porsche, because it's made in Germany.
Yeah, that's a I guess the bigger wheels helped go a little faster and hit the bumps better and all that, right?
Yeah, you maintain your momentum better, you know, and you run into a really, quite a bit of poor surfaces as you're skating cross country. So the bigger
I would imagine,
the better.
Yeah, I would imagine some of the roads you must have been on had to be like treacherous sometimes.
Well, yeah, and I think the worst road we ever hit was in eastern Oregon. It was actually an 8% grade downhill, and it was so bad they had just chip sealed it. We had to actually push down the hill.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God! So now tell me, what is tell us about some of the innovations that people. What was obviously encased bearings was probably, I would think, the number one first thing that came around, right? And the urethane wheels.
Yeah, urethane wheels came around in the very early 70s, probably 1972. A guy named Frank Nasworthy kind of stumbled across them on an accident. He was visiting a friend of his father owned a plastics company, and they came in, and the plastics company had made some urethane wheels for a roller skating rink, and they didn't work very well on the roller skating rink because they had too much traction, and roller skaters like to slide a little bit. So he asked if he could have some, and they gave him some, and he took them back to California and gave them to his surf buddies, and they started putting them on their skateboards, and the next thing you know, they were showing up at shops, and it became Cadillac wheels. And then that was really the big turning point in skateboard history. There's been no other innovation that had the impact that did. The next big impact was, as you mentioned, precision bearings, which was also kind of a fluke. A kid's dad, who was a bearing salesman, just one evening got tired of replacing his kid's bearings, loose ball bearings, and popped out the hubs, the races, and pushed in a couple precision bearings, and the light bulb went off. He took the idea to Santa Cruz skateboards, and they came out with the precision bearings, which made a world of difference.
Wow, yeah, they sure did. I mean, it was just like night and day, and the urethane, of course, too, it was crazy. I mean, just the smoothness of the ride and like the stickiness on the cement was a lot better for people that were riding on cement like me.
And then like the precision bearing, I remember seeing my first set of wheels that had precision bearings that were Road Rider 2s.
I had those.
I remember spinning them, and they didn't spin like a loose ball bearing did. I'm like,
it's not going to work well, right?
It's not going to be fast. And then you set the board down and step on it, and they were miles faster.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, that's great. And now, of course, the trend as I got older, had to start switching to the longer boards, and now that's a longer board is huge out there, right? People do for slalom and all the great. Show us some of the stuff you got, products that you sell here in the store.
We're very stoked to carry the Loaded brand. It's a really innovative company from Southern California.
Hey, pull one out of there. That's a nice board. I was looking at that a few minutes ago.
They use bamboo and fiberglass to build the boards.
Beautiful.
They have reverse kingpin trucks, which are much more stable than the old straight up and down kingpins. Nice ride to this, nice feel, flexible. They come in different flexes.
Yeah, I like a board that bounces, when you step on it. It feels better to me.
You've got all different kinds of wheels now in different shapes, different hardnesses, different formulas for be it downhill or for sliding or for just what they call free riding. And truly, in my opinion, longboard skateboarding is the only part of skateboarding that's growing right now.
Is that right?
It seems to me that the flipper board or shortboard market or part of the sport is kind of stagnant right now. I mean, there's a lot going on with skate parks and things, but as far as growth of the industry and bringing new people to it, I think longboards are driving the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally reopened my eyes to being able to skate. I mean, I wiped out a couple of times when I was in my 30s on my my other board, and boy, it just, that was it for me. I said, you know, I'm going to have to go back to not skating anymore. And then all of a sudden I said, you know what? I bought one of these longboards, which is that one right there. I've had it about almost 15 years now, and it's just the best thing ever. I love it. So,
well, one thing that longboarding has done is it has opened it up skateboarding to all ages. I'm 55. My wife is 50. We both still skate, and it also has brought girls into the skateboarding world.
Yeah, I see a lot of girls out there now skating. It's really great. Hey guys, how you doing? Come on in.
And you know, it's funny. Back in the '70s and '80s, people always used to ask me, you know, why don't more girls skate? And I always used to tell them they're too smart. They know it hurts when you fall. You know? But now it's, you know, you see girls all the time skating.
Yeah, it's true. And you know, it's funny. People laugh at me because I mean, I'm not the easiest guy in the world to. I'm not the most coordinated guy. Let's say that. I mean, I know how to skate. I know how to do sports pretty well. But I do wipe out a lot. Let's put it that way. On my bike, on my skateboard, and there's nothing quite like the feeling of eating cement. I mean, I'm so well acquainted with that, as you can probably see from my bruises, numerous bruises all over my body. You know, so it's really cool. So let's check out the back of the shop real quick before we end this out, because we got such a great view here. We're in a fabulous location. If you guys ever want to come down to Morro Bay, this is literally one of the greatest places on earth. You're right on the water. You've got the beautiful rock right there, and the boat's right outside your door here. So
very lucky to be. We're located in what's called Marina Square, and we do have one of the. We probably have the only museum and skate shop that's this close to the ocean. Yeah,
no kidding. It's really cool. Now, this is one of the new boards I've seen coming out lately. Those little tiny short ones, and that's a little different, huh?
That's what's called a penny skateboard. It's kind of the modern version of the old banana board that people called.
Yeah, I haven't seen one of those in here, but we have we used to have those big yellow or blue long pointy boards, you know?
This is the modern version of that. The trucks and wheels and bearings are much better.
Oh, okay.
And at first I didn't understand the attraction.
I don't. I was trying to figure out why you would want to ride one of those now.
Yeah,
but
and when I was a kid, the first thing you wanted to do was get rid of those. You wanted to get a real board, a wood board. But the generation of, my theory is the generation of kids that are riding these now, so who are buying these, they've grown up on flipper boards that have trucks that don't turn real well because they're so tight. They have wheels that roll really great in the park, but they don't roll very well on the street or the sidewalk. So a kid stands on one of these, and wow, it's smooth, it rolls, I can turn. I can have fun without doing tricks.
Right.
I can throw it in my backpack when I'm at school or my locker.
Get somewhere quicker, right?
You know, and then there is the faction that is it's a fashion statement. But you know what? I think it's good for skateboarding because kids are getting introduced to a different way of riding.
Yep, I agree. I think it's really cool. So that's good to do. All right. Well, listen. If you're in Morro Bay or if you're anywhere in the Central Coast, be sure to stop by the Morro Bay Skateboard Museum. Say hi to Jack Smith, the owner, and one of the coolest guys I've ever met. Actually, he's look. Everybody here in this town looks like they're 20 years younger probably than they really are. It's amazing.
Well, it's the nice fresh air.
I think so. I think it must agree with everybody around here. So, all right. This is Howard Cohen for Travel Bums and Open House Radio, signing off from the Skateboard Museum in Morro Bay. Thanks.
I like that name, Travel Bums, is that what you call it?
Yeah, Travel Bum Diaries, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks. That's the podcast series.